10.
Right answer. There we go.
Welcome everybody to our Council on Aging meeting of February the 11th at 2:08. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I'm sure we all had a chance to go over the minutes, so anybody have any?
No, before we do that, just look at this. Take this off. Any person may make a video, audio recording of any open session of any public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium subject to reasonable requirements of the chairs as to the number, placement, and operations of equipment used so as to not interfere with the conduct of this meeting. Any person intending to make such recording shall notify the chair forthwith. By the way, I'm recording this. All documents referenced or used during the meeting are to be submitted in duplicate to the chair. Pursuant to the Open Meeting and Public Records Law, all documents shall become part of the official record of the meeting. Before we get on with the meeting, though, I'd like to take a moment and just acknowledge the fact that somebody who's been on our board for as long as she has and has served so faithfully as not only a board member, president of Golden Age Club, but a huge advocate for our senior community. I think we all share acknowledging the deep sorrow we have in the passing of our fellow board member, Gloria Tarpey. So if you would join me just for a minute to reflect on beautiful people who make beautiful contributions to the community, like certainly Gloria's legacy is known for. Thank you.
Okay, the meeting called to order, and we've had the minutes. I'm sure everybody's gone over them. So, do we have a motion to?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes.
Okay. First by Stanley, second by Barbara. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Okay, very good. Our next thing on our list today is the treasury report from Carrie Ullman.
All right, you all have a copy of the report as of January 31, 2025. Page 1 is our general fund, as always. It's the expenses for the salaries and things to do with the office and energy. And you can see there's nothing really outstanding there. And the budget there is in good shape. Is there any question on any item there at all? This is on page 1, top of the page, under general fund. Any question at all? We'll try to answer it.
I want to just make sure that you all know and are aware that overtime specifically, we're over with the first 2 storms that came in February. So our overtime budget will probably ask for a transfer money from the on-call standby to fill in some of that deficit. But we still have from January to June to go. Expecting a storm this weekend, so that means that the staff to come in and clean up on Sunday will have to be paid double time for that. We also have coverage for our nighttime meetings. That's an overtime expense. So in years past, we've been a little less, I don't know, we had far less expenses. We've hit the 500, but never much beyond that. We'll probably have all of the $1,000 by the end of the year. Just be mindful of, because we didn't have anything last year on call standby. And you'll also know that you see that there are some contracted balances. So the mail manager, we haven't seen any expenses, but you know that there's probably several $1,000s of expenses that are going to be dropped in there in the next, either next month's report or March report. So it's not because we haven't spent that money. And then the last thing I just want to make you aware of is the outreach coordinator, 2088. That is artificially low because we haven't transferred the expense from the grant account into this account yet. So 50-50 is how that salary expense is split between the operating account and the grant account. So we still have to take 50% of the expenses, which I don't think we've accumulated or noted any of those expenses in the operating fund since probably August or September. So again, we'll be right up to that $9,000 mark. So if it looks artificially low, it hasn't changed. It's simply because we haven't done the accounting transaction. Otherwise, we're right on target. I mean, 56% of the expenses is where we should be. It's probably a little low, so we should probably be closer to like a 60% now. And because a lot of those expenses are fronted, they're upfront costs. That's it. That's all I had. Nothing more.
So as of January 31, the balance in that general fund was $96,394.63. Again, any question or anything that Mike has just said that you need more clarification on? No? Okay. Then right. Oh, I'm sorry, Paul.
Make sure your mic is on.
On the ones that were kind of low on balances, such as the telecom and the encumbered repairs, and that's good. This has to last till June, correct?
So some of those are like one-time payments. So the telecom is a reimbursement for cell phone expenses. We bill that halfway through the year, for the year. So the 2024, 25 expenses have been expensed for the whole year now. So that covers us through June. There is an important note I want to just make sure you know that we're right now on a freeze, an expense freeze. So we can't spend any money that's not essential. We don't have any line items that fall within that category, with the exception of office supplies, professional development. Those are probably maybe repairs are non-essential, but the rest are considered essential. And but we may not see that repair, the office expense go up much between now and June if we have a freeze.
Thank you.
Okay. If no other questions, we'll move down just below that to the gift fund. We did receive a donation of $1,000 from a fund this in December. So at the moment now, our balance in that fund is $88,240.74, and hopefully we'll be taking some money out of it in the near future for a paint job over at the Waterford Street, hopefully. But pretty much that's the gift fund. But if there is any question, if not, turn the page now, and on page 2 we have the revolving fund. And the last column over on the page is purchase order contracts that are still outstanding, and Mike has listed those for you. There's just 2 at the moment, and everything else is right there. Does anyone have any questions on the revolving fund? Ask now.
Just so that you're all aware that our balance on the revolving fund is listed as $45,000. It's going to really be closer to, once we encumber those other $1,200, be closer to 42.3, somewhere around there, 43.3. I think what's going to end up happening, I didn't really flag it here, but I want you to know, I'm probably going to eliminate those POs so that we don't have the encumbrance on there anymore, because we're limited on the expenses we have. The revolving fund, by the way, does not come under that essential expenditure mandate by the city council and mayor. The reason for that is this is a program-generated revenue and expense account, so money comes in, money comes out, revolving funds are exempt from that cap, which gives us a little bit of flexibility because then we can use some of this fund to fund things for maybe non-essential but needed stuff that might normally come under the operating budget.
Any other questions on the revolving fund? We all know that money comes in and money goes out for the programs, okay?
I have a question.
Pardon, what?
A question on the trips and excursions where it says minus 511%. What's that?
Yep, so I would just say everything in the contract POs I just talked about, we're gonna eliminate both of those. That's just a formatting thing, it's a $511 balance on the purchase order. The reason you need to know that is that money's spoken for. It's encumbered, I can't spend it. So let's say there was $1,200 over there, and that's kind of why I eliminated. The only one that actually shows up is the 711 or the 70868 from Hannaford's, is because we can't overspend on this account. So if I had $60,000 of purchase orders there, they're not purchases, they're not expenses, but they're commitments, we would be in arrears, and this board should probably get pretty upset about that. So I want to make sure you know what we have signed for contracts or purchase orders and committed from the different funds, just so that you're clear about what our balance is. Those contracting POs, they're probably going to disappear. I think we're going to just make a case to eliminate them and then put in new POs for any new purchases. That $708 balance from Hannaford's was really from the holiday meals, and we've expensed everything from that.
Any other question down there? Any other? Going once, twice? Okay. And now we're over on to the FY24 state grant.
And I'm going to interrupt her again. She asked me to put in, if you see a column header on that last column where it says contract POs, that goes through all of the different accounts. That last column is going to be committed but not spent.
Well, that's what that last column is. Otherwise, everything seems to be up to date. We have a balance there of $34,827.58, and we owe $34,695.25.
I wasn't following, I apologize. So our balance, so when you see that 29,833, that's the total balance of funds. We have, we have an interesting thing going on here. I don't know why that did that. So this is a formatting issue, I apologize. 29,883 is what our balance is, that is correct.
Okay, that's
I don't know why the 34,827 showed up there.
Is it 29,883?
29,883.26 is correct. And we have expenditures of 29,695.25. So, I'm sorry, POs or contracts that we expect to expend. So we are going to be pretty close to dead even on this account. Now, you may be saying, hey, wait a minute, there's still $5,000 of outreach coordinator, but remember that $5,000 is going to be paid for through the city money. So that expense, almost in its entirety, will be changed over to the operating account. So there'll be no expense or very little expense showing up in the state grant for that. So the 29,883 and the 29,695 are exactly right, which gives us about a projected balance of about $200. I say projected because you see the purchase orders are a little fluid from week to week. We may have budgeted a $200 cost per week for our yoga instructor, but there was a holiday that week, so it's $50 less. Or it's 5 weeks, so it's $50 more. We did a 52-week projection based on the number of classes, but even those contract encumbrances, those are high. We're going to have a little bit more money in this set. In May and June, we're going to be working to spend out. Because our hope is to close out FY24 in this fiscal year.
That's what I was just going to add. It's our hope to get this one closed out in our fiscal year. Any questions on the FY24 grant. I think I might really got it all spelled out for us. If not, then turn the page to our FY25 grant, which we haven't started to spend yet, so you can see that we are still in good shape. We got a big total of $83,565 even, almost $84,000 in our FY25 state grant, so we can have a big party.
Big party.
A big party. So that, you'll probably won't be too long, you'll start to see some charges there. Now, the next page over.
Okay, just, if you would, we're getting some feedback, you want to just pull your mic back just a little bit. Yep. It's ringing, can you hear me?
Oh, I'm ringing.
Yeah, we're ringing.
Sorry about that.
Just for a quick note on the state grant, FY25, we still have the balance, FY26 is about to be awarded. So, yep. Yeah. So the governor's budget and the Senate budget both include, the governor's budget included the increase in the formula grant for senior centers in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts of $1 per capita, which would be about a $5,300 increase for us. The Senate version did not include an increase, or the House version didn't include an increase. They'll go to compromise and flush that out. It should be noted that in this fiscal year, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is projecting a deficit. I don't feel particularly optimistic that we're going to see increases in this, but we certainly will see decreases. So, at the very least, it's going to be level funded.
And now I'll turn the next report fully over to Mike because I don't get too involved. It's the technology grant. Mike.
So the idea of the technology grant was to enable us to buy some equipment to provide some online access. We've really done pretty well. It's all together. We have our first couple of online courses this month, which is really good news. The bad news is the instructor who was coming on board just got another opportunity and isn't able to teach the courses anymore. So at this meeting, I'm making it official. I'm looking for a Chromebook. How to use a Chromebook, how to access the internet type of knowledge and experience. If anybody knows that, we'd love to bring you on. You'll see some weird things, like some X's before numbers. And the reason those X's are before numbers is they will not be part of the calculation. So that 1923 and 3906 are there for notes for me. Those were expenses that were incurred in other accounts or that we expect to be incurred by a budget amendment. The budget amendment hasn't been approved yet. So I still have to submit that to Executive Office of Elder Affairs and our contractor to make sure they're okay. Why are we doing a budget amendment? Well, several of our items have come in under budget. Also, we found out in the last tech roundtable that all of the expenses have to be incurred by March 31st, even though we didn't get the grant until last September. That is particularly problematic when you look at, for example, the subscriptions in 19200. That subscription is based on 20 Chromebooks at $40 each per month, $9,600 a year for 2 years. So we propose supporting the internet access on our Chromebooks for seniors that are borrowing these to have free internet. And we don't want to burden our seniors who are using technology with an additional cost of having to get internet access. So that was the whole premise of the lending library, was to say, oh, guess what? We're going to give you some free internet access so that you can try it and test it and you can play with it to determine whether or not you're comfortable. We think we found a viable and allowable way to get that 19.2 paid, but it's part of the budget amendment, so we have to wait for that. In addition, we're going to take out any of the long-term stuff, like the interns, the tech trainers things, $14,000. We're going to roll that into the revolving fund and buy more equipment with that. So that $14,000, of that, another $4,000 is going to be used for additional 10 Chromebooks. So each center will have 15 Chromebooks instead of 10. And the relative cost of the internet access for 2 years for those. So there's another $9,600. So that's like $13,000. In all of those areas, the tech trainer, the interns, that's 99 plus 6 is 15,600. We wash on that, so that's pretty good. Plus, we have some available balances from some of the other accounts. We have $457 left from the laptop expense. We have, right now, $4,000 left from the Chromebook budget line item that we're going to use to buy the additional Chromebooks. And we have about $1,700 left from the Neat Board line item expense. So we'll just move some of that stuff around. But in order to do that officially and legitimately, we have to get approval. So we're going to put that in a narrative, hopefully submitted by this Friday. I was able to meet with the Templeton group last week to make sure they were in agreement. We worked out some of the ideas. They came up with some great suggestions, including more Chromebooks, which we'll incorporate in that budget amendment. That'll go in this Friday. So you'll see like some wonky, not wonky, just like some notes, T-for to hardware, T-for to Zoom. That's part of the idea of the proposed budget amendment, but that's still not, it's still not accurate because there's a lot more that's going to be added to this before this Friday. Our balance though is $49,000, so we have $49,000 in cash. That's going to go out the door in probably total 45 days. One of the things this board needs to know as part of that budget amendment though, I am committing to paying the tech instructor out of the revolving or state grant funds. We have the money, that's primarily what the money is used for as instructors. This is one more instructor to add to that list. Obviously, it's incumbent on us to watch what those contracts look like, but we have the money and ability to do it right now. So, and we'll make that commitment for 2 years. And that commitment for 2 years is $3,600. So it's not a huge sum of money. Before we finish the finance report, Madam Treasurer, if you would allow me to go over the FY26 budget. And then we'll incorporate all of that in one report. Mr. Leone.
On the tech grant, just a couple loose ends. You're transferring.
Don't consider the transfer. The finance report is the stuff that's not involved in the TFR, but go ahead.
When it says transfer to hardware, transfer under insurance and then the tech trainer.
Yep.
Okay? Roughly about maybe $9,000, right?
Okay.
And it's going to go into buying more Chromebooks. I'm
It is
trying
not.
to be clear about what you said. Did you say we're going to buy 5?
We are buying a lot more equipment other than Chromebooks from that extra money. So some of that, those purchases are the production card. The grant folks were pretty positive that the production card, which we were funding entirely out of the revolving fund, are expenses that can come out of the tech grant.
Right.
So we're going to reallocate those expenses. That's going to draw down about $3,900 per card, $3,800 per card, $7,600. The hours, that's an expense that we didn't plan on in the grant. We're able to do as part of the initial Neat Board technology connection. So, I mean, clearly you all know that in order to make this work, it has to balance at the end of the day, right? So it's not going to be $40,000 new in equipment and only having $18,000 debt.
All right, well,
It has to.
My question,
Go ahead.
I understand
Yeah,
that. I do understand this to a point. Because I'm looking at 3 figures, and you look at the balance under Chromebooks, the transfer of hardware under the tech trainer, and the transfer of the hardware under the interns, you got about $13,000 there, okay? Under the Chromebooks, $4,000 is a lot of money when you consider most Chromebooks were between $400 to $600.
Those are $420 each.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's less than really $3,000.
No, if they're $400 each and we're doing 10, that's $4,000.
Wait a minute, I thought we already bought 10.
We bought 20 and we're buying an additional 10. So we'll have 30 Chromebooks,
Very good.
15 at Gardner, 15 in Templeton.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That's
So
where I got
that
confused.
wash, that 4,000 is really a wash. The
Okay.
additional, If you want it, if anybody else is interested, we'll go through the numbers. We're gonna transfer the 1,900 from the tech trainer, we're gonna transfer the 480798 and the 800 from insurance, which still leaves us $2,300. That's gonna be gone, we're transferring all of that, all into hardware. Pretty much everything's going into our production, but understand the grant was predicated on us paying for instructors and providing access to instructors. So, because we have to spend the money now, we'll make the commitment to fund the instructors from revolving fund. We originally funded the equipment from revolving fund, we'll put that into the grant. If we spent that, it's a reasonable cost, it's acceptable, they'll take that, we'll spend it. By the way, just so you know, if they decide to not accept the amendment, then some of this bill we're going to lose. But yeah, I mean, right now we spent
All right, thanks for clarifying.
$35,000. Yeah,
Okay.
good. Yeah. It's convoluted. Fiscal year 26, I think I told you last month, we were working on the budget. We did submit that on January 10th to the mayor. The budget includes wages of $185,000 of a $220,000 budget. So by far, most of our expenses are related to salaries. Operating costs include those things that we told you. There's not a lot of movement in the operating costs. We're not really asking for additional, although you should know it is going to change substantially when we move into Waterford. Right now, we have, our energy and electricity budget line item is $14,500. The city gets the bill for that. It goes through our account for this building. We probably do the same thing at Waterford. So you'll see that 14.5, or at least a portion of that energy utility go up significantly. We're getting a lot more space, right? So just assume we have to have a reflection of the increased utilities that goes along with that space. But otherwise, not a lot. Our information tech, we've asked for an increase in information tech just to meet the corresponding increase bill from Comcast for our internet and television. But it's minor, it's not a lot. Our telecom is exactly the same. Professional development, exactly the same. Office supplies, we have a budget of 3% reduction in office supplies, above the 3% reduction we had last year. So that's lower as well. But by far, in our city operating account, the vast majority of expenses are from salaries. 79.5% to be exact of the department city budget is for staff. So the other 20% is for things like utilities and repairs and maintenance. And the rest are kind of small dollar stuff. Mr. Lipscomb.
I have a question. When we do move to Boston, under the facilities manager, how much of that building are we responsible?
So I understand, and I haven't seen the leases, but I understand that the leases provide for, to some extent, each of the lessees having a janitor kind of stuff. And right now, a lot of the work we do on a day-to-day basis is more the janitorial maintenance stuff. The larger repairs falls on the city, right? It's a city building, so I imagine whoever's on site is going to be responsible for coordinating the response to whatever that facility issue is. It's not likely, it's not in the budget, nobody's talking about adding additional people. So we'll really just be relying on the collaboration with our partners to make sure that daily stuff is done. And see what goes from there. Now, also know, here, everything is manual. We manually monitor, we manually sweep. Our hope is to be able to buy some equipment to get a big buffering machine, so we can go through the whole facility on a little golf cart, and, that'd be kind of neat to, do the floor. So that's our hope. It may or may not come this year, we don't know, but it's still an exciting opportunity. And I think from our perspective, we'll look at, we have 7 rooms, we'll look at 1 or 2 rooms a day that we maintain. So that might be a deep cleaning in each of those rooms on any given day, and then just continue to do the rotation.
No, I was just wondering, because of the size of that building, I mean, you've got a gym in the building, you've got that cafeteria
Yeah.
that's in the building. The office area down by the cafeteria, then you have 2 floors on the wing.
Yeah, I'm absolutely certain that the back 2-floor part of the building won't be something that we have to worry about. I feel very confident about that. The rest of the building, I'll just tell you, like, our philosophy is, we do what we can. So if there's a need, we respond to it, and, we adjust and adapt. I'm hopeful that we would get in there. That's not going to be a daily grind, but I don't really see it causing a huge degree of disruption until it does. And when it does, then we can go and ask the mayor and city council for additional funds, for additional facilities people if we need it. I think right now we're just hoping to get in and see. Let's see what this looks like. What's the impact? So that in a year, we can make an intelligent decision about staffing and resources and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that we've had as well, but I feel pretty comfortable about where we're at, so I think that the wait and see is good, and we have the commitment of the mayor and the city council to respond if we need to. Some things you should know, just off the top, obviously there are increases built in for salaries, including, I've asked for a more than moderate increase in my salary, based on the recommendations from the department heads. I don't know if that'll happen. City's tight for funds like everybody else's, so shoot for the sky and see what happens. Overtime, I've asked for more overtime in this year's budget. We'll see what happens. But some of our wish list items, the bingo board, originally a couple of years ago, I was talking about having to replace that electronic board, and we actually did some poking around to find out if you want to guess. I'll tell you, $14,000 to replace the board. That doesn't include the visual. So it's a handsome amount of money, but this board has demonstrated great stewardship and responsibility. We have some money to do that. If we got hit with a $20,000 bill because our bingo board broke, we would not be dead in the water. We could absolutely afford to get a new bingo board if we had to, and then cut back on some other things, right? So I think legitimately we have a little bit of flexibility. I hope we don't get to that point where we have to bite on our own a $20,000 expense. The pool table, I think I told you, one of the pool tables downstairs, the expert said that's probably not going to make the move. It's in stable shape where it is, but once you try to move it off life support, it may not make it. So we're doing some exploration. There might be a couple pool tables available in the community. We're hoping that the group will extend an offer to us to pick up and purchase and put down there. We'll see. A big one you guys need to know about, I'm going to talk a little bit more about in the update, is our Lifeline program, so I'm not going to talk about it now. And then there are some other new purchases that we're hoping to at least look at, including the projection board for the theater, the sound system for the theater, painting, some kind of minor stuff. Our approach to this as a team is, if we can work on one room a year and renovate that, then we'd be in really good shape. And that's our hope, is to look at 1 or 2 rooms a year and get them all done by the end of, say, 5 years. Our performance update's also in there. Like, here's some highlights about what we did. I'm going to let you look at that on your own volition. It's some pretty interesting things, but I do want to share some. Nope, I'm going to wait until we do the director's report. So that's the end of the finance side. You have a copy of the budget. That's officially been submitted for your review. If you have any comments, concerns, please let us know. You have a copy. That's the detailed spreadsheet that went into the mayor's office for consideration. He's going to look at that. He's going to make his recommendations. It then goes to the city council for consideration and debate. We'll have to appear before the welfare committee to talk about our proposed budget. And then the welfare committee will report out to the full council the recommendation for the council on aging budget. That's kind of how the process goes. So Terry and Ron typically will go to that meeting, usually the chair and the treasurer, to represent the board, and myself as the department head goes as well. I don't really see there being a lot of contention in the city budget. They're not going to, I don't think there is. I think really the only point that may be debated is the salary. And I don't know that that's going to be debated because I don't think the mayor's going to submit that based on the current financial situation. I don't know.
On the lifeline, some of the Medicare plans offer that for free. So you might want to check with our Shine people, and that could reduce the exposure expense.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the director's report.
I just want to ask a question on the 4% decrease on salary. Is that already budgeted in there?
Yeah, as I told you, it's pretty, it's budgeted in there. It's a pretty limited non-salary budget. If you look at like what we have on that spreadsheet, everything from repair and maintenance down is our non-salary expenses, and that only makes up 20% of our budget. So that 20% of our budget, we had to decrease it by 3%. So we reduced, our repairs and maintenance to $13,250. It's not likely that we're not going to go over that in FY26. Information technology, I actually had an increase, and I increased that because our costs have gone up for Comcast Internet and television. Minor equipment, we saw that right off the top, just kind of clean. But that's probably going to be, it was eliminated last year, it'll probably be eliminated this year. We won't really think that's going to make the budget. Energy and utilities, we had a decrease from 14.5 to 13.5. That was our 4% decrease that we had to do. Telecommunications is what it is. There's no flexibility in that. In fact, like our information technology, there's no wiggle room in that. The cost is the cost. Professional development, we didn't go anywhere with that. We spend all of our professional development every year. My feeling is that might be on the chopping block in its entirety. And then we reduced the office supplies by 4%. So there's really only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 line items that we have to reduce by 3%. And that will be a struggle. It will be a struggle. But if that's what we have to do to make the ends meet, then that's what we have to do. It's a problem.
Do we have any metric as to how much of an increase in services or people served we've done?
Holy schmoly. Take a look at the FY24 accomplishments. I'm going to go over some of those in the director's report. The answer is yes.
So we should be able to do that and decrease our funding?
Yes. Similarly, I would imagine EMS calls. If we know EMS calls for fire department, police department have gone up, not down. They're being asked to do the same thing that we are. That's the finance report. Thank you, Madam Treasurer.
Thank you. Any other questions before?
Any other questions?
Can I have entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. First by Paul.
And just to clarify, Paul, your motion is to accept?
Yes.
But you can also make a motion to decline or reject it, just so you all know. It doesn't have to be accepted. So thank you. I just want to make sure we're clear.
Sorry about that.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so voted. Thank you, Evan. Next thing now is the director's report. All yours.
All mine. All right, so metrics. We've seen a 42% increase in our service call volume and referrals. That's huge. But here's something that I asked our telephone person, just telephone calls, what we're at. We were just under 10,000 incoming calls in 2024. So that's a pretty significant number. With the exception of the EMS in the schools, I doubt anybody comes close to 10,000 calls. But if you look at the reverse of that, our outbound is equal to or exceeds that 9,700, 9,500 calls. We do regular calls for all our programs, cancellations, confirmations. reservations, reminder calls, we do robocalls. Our robocall output in 2024 was 15,000. 15,000 robocalls. By the way, you think, oh, that's not staff intensive. It's wicked staff intensive. Because we have to create the list, we have to create the message, we have to schedule and confirm that and send it out. And every time a robocall goes out, so if we do an all call, for example, of roughly 2,600 seniors who've been active in the senior center for the last, anywhere in the last 2 years, so if they've had a touch with us in the last 2 years, they get a call. We get about a 10 or 15% callback. That's not included in our call volume. So the callback is just, it's folks saying, hi, I just saw a call come from the senior center. I'm just calling to see what it was. And of course the easy answer is check the voicemail. But, and for the real convoluted long messages, sometimes that's what we have to say, because it's just, there are 200 calls coming in 15 minutes. So we don't have the luxury of repeating that message. So my message, folks that are watching, if you get a robocall from the senior center, please listen to it. It's not spam. And even if it is spam, if you listen, you can hang up. Please take the call and at least hear it. If you hear my glowing voice, this is Mike Ellis, director of the Gardner Senior Center. It's a bona fide, legitimate message. And it's about a program here. It's not, we're not going to sell you a timeshare in Florida or a bridge in Brooklyn. So we're looking at about 30,000 outbound calls. Holy crap, including our robocalls, right? So 31.5 is the number that we kind of came up with finally. Calls include appointments and services, reservations for programs, referrals, and information for legal, medical, housing, in-house services, food programs, transportation. We get 1 million calls for the phone numbers for other senior centers. And there's a reason for that, because we're #1 on the Google search. And there's a reason for that, because our engagements have gone up. And there's a reason for that, because we're taking the time to make posts and send information out. That's all super staff intensive. We provide assistance with Medicare, Medicaid, DMV, dispute resolution with like Comcast or lawsuits, referrals and services with other agencies, nutrition and services. Here's some Google analytic information. From September 24th to February 25th, so roughly a 5-month period, we had 1,400 Google business interactions. That means somebody went into Google and clicked on the website indicator to come to our website and get information. We had almost 3,000 views, so those are interactions. That means somebody did something proactively involved. We had 2,700 clicks into our site from the Google business. Why is that important? Because prior to September, we didn't have a Google business profile. Somebody else owned our website. So we were able to get that back, capture it back, and create a profile that included our business hours and our address and our email information, and our hours of operation. From Google, we had 320 calls from that business profile. Doesn't seem like much. We had 0 before. 750 clicks from the business profile. On Facebook, you ready? This is going to be a ride. We had 38,000 views in the last 90 days. 38,000 views. We have a 6,300 person reach. So that's like distribution of Facebook content. And they, maybe clicked it once, but that's 6,300 reaches, individual reaches. We had 960 content interactions where people click through an email that we sent. And we're purposely devising, if you haven't seen it, please respond. Like, what's your favorite program at the Gardner Senior Center? Brought to us very intelligently by somebody else who's also doing this kind of stuff on Facebook to increase interactions and get people to notice what we do. So I'm very appreciative of all of the huge advice and direction they've given us. So 960 likes, shares, saves, comments, replies, 1,000 for our senior center. That's high. Our top views, an individual post that we post on Facebook. Top number of individual people who viewed this. Here are some of the numbers. 3,516, 3,739, 3,466 on individual posts, 3,762, 3,532, 5,773, and topping that list, 7,093 individual views on the Gardner Senior Center page. Where were we a year ago? Bucka. We have 662 likes and 904 people are following us. Bucka? Buckets? Nothing? I don't know. Not. Those are good metrics, right? Those are good numbers, but you have to put them in perspective. So last year, for the end of 2024, we had over 10,000 volunteer hours at the Gardner Senior Center. 500, just under 550 individual separate volunteers. So again, huge numbers when you look at it in any given year. And sometimes it's like period specific. I'll give you for an example, the Lions Club and Elks Club. They give us 20 volunteers the week of Christmas and the week of Thanksgiving. Peeling, prepping, cooking, cleaning. We're able to capture all of those volunteers in our numbers, but they're significant because without those volunteers, we wouldn't have a holiday meal, and that's a senior center activity. But folks that are on the parking lot for 8 hours, think about like that 1 8-hour duration event and you have 6 people out there, right? That pulls in 50 hours right there. That's a huge number, and I always just maybe put it in perspective and say, I challenge the idea that there's any department in the city that manages 550 people for 10,000 hours. And we have to manage each of them. We're kind of come in and do their own thing, we manage them in that volunteer work. And that's staff and time intensive, right? That's resource driven. I'll also say this, because I love it. I love this part of it, that we had a small group of people 5 years ago. Very committed, very dedicated, did great work. But because of those people and folks like you, and having more of an open and willingness to allow people to do their thing, we've grown that from about just under 100 volunteers to 5.5 times the number of volunteers at the Gardner Senior Center. I think that tells a pretty good story. I hope that you're equally as excited, because when I saw these numbers, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have a heart attack, I need to take a vacation. It's cool. It really is cool. So that's kind of my director's report. There's some pretty good stuff coming up. We're trying to get ahead of our newsletters. People don't understand that there's a huge time element in the production of each of those newsletters. Like you have to create content and graphics, and you have to confirm programs, schedule it. Our scheduling, interesting, in the recent salary study that was done by the city of Gardner, one of the metrics that they evaluated us by was scheduling and planning and strategic planning. We do a year and 14 months in advance planning on all of our programs. So if you look at our schedule, we have our concert set, we have our holiday program set for 2025 in January of that year. We don't have the luxury of waiting until 2 weeks before the program to announce the program, otherwise our seniors wouldn't know anything about it. So that too is intentionally getting the word out. We do great on communications. We have wonderful partnerships with a lot of organizations that support us. And now when we send out Facebook content, because we're getting so many interactions, they're more willing to share and add that content to their page. Folks like the CAC and the City Board of Health and Haywood Hospital are pushing a lot of content out that we develop and send. Our number of newsletters have increased. We do 2,000 newsletters in more outlets than we ever had before. All color 12-page. Significant. Message boards every single month are updated throughout the building so that people, no matter what room they're in, can see the messages about upcoming programs. Maybe they missed it in a newsletter or they forgot about it, so it's a great reminder. Our robocalls and reminder calls are other great communication pieces for us, but certainly social media has helped us a lot. And I've got to say, because I love to say it, because I love people like this, we have just a wonderful partner in the Lions and Science Department who, no matter what I ask or when I ask, his answer is always, yeah, we'll get it done. When do you need it by? If he doesn't like how we sent it, he'll redo it and make it better. Those kind of people are just a blessing to be around. And so I'm going to give a shout out to Doug and Pat, and just thank you for your support, as well as all the other folks that make our programs work. With that, any questions? Do we have any thoughts, comments?
I had one thing to reiterate first off. What Mike mentioned was about the cancellations and stuff when we have snows. And I made a notation only because next week is school vacation week. And there probably won't be any messages on your TV when you wake up in the morning to look at it. So just pay attention. You got a phone call from Michael here at the office saying there's no program because of bad weather. So we'll take it from there. But just make sure everybody just listen carefully. And like I said, please don't think it's just a spam call when you get it. Listen to what you have to say.
And that's the impetus. Like, if you see bad weather coming and you see a phone call from the senior center, pick it up, because 99% of the time that's an announcement about a program. Either we're delayed or we're closed or something to that effect. Next week in particular, but I gotta say it as well. I had it under other open business, but it is disappointing when our members come and they're frustrated. They show up at the senior center after we are either experiencing a delay or a closure. And you can see their frustration and their disappointment in the program, and that's disappointing for us. When we're here cleaning snow, somebody's got to be in the building. So if all hands are on deck outside, and we have a 2-hour delay, we can't open early. The other major consideration from a policy perspective you need to know is I can't open early for one group and not open early for others. So on a Tuesday, we might be close to getting ready to open. If I open early for that, the wood carvers or whoever come in on Tuesday, but I don't open early on Thursday for that group after it's snowing, it is really unfair, and it is challenging to negotiate that conflict. So we try to stay pretty even-keeled. Our weather policy is we follow the schools during the school year. If the school is canceled, does that mean, by the way, we get all next week off?
That'd be great. There'd be a lot of upset people not able to come here.
Including me. If the school is closed for a weather condition, then we're closed. If they have a two-hour delay, we have a 2-hour delay. And 1 hour, we have 1 hour. If they close early, we close early. Because it's the only consistent way for us to get the message out. Now, I want you all to know as well that I wasn't necessarily thrilled with this. I think the schools do a great job, and I said, well, what if the senior center is open? Why? And we have a different policy than the school. So we contacted channels 4, 5, and 7. Honest to God, we did. And I said, I would like to be one of the organizations that announce the closures. And they only do school closings. They don't include like the Tai Chi group of, Worcester, Mass, or they won't do it. So we're exempted from that unless we become a school, which. So yeah, some churches they do. Yeah, one of the churches.
Yeah, much of them
do senior centers. Absolutely got shot down by all 3. So, and the schools work for us. So that's a good thing. We will post it on our Facebook page as soon as we know. We'll do a robocall to the folks that have registered and signed up, and this is really important, for any event happening that day over the course of the last 4 weeks. Now the reality is some people come to events and don't like to sign in. There's no negative impact on signing into a program. It lets us know utilization numbers that I just shared with you. So when we go to the mayor, we have about 725 seniors a week coming to our center, which is a lot. That doesn't include the special like tax season. We'll do 120 taxpayers. We do about 1,500 Medicare appointments. Doesn't include those. Those are big numbers. If you don't sign in, there's no way for us to know that you participate in the wood carvers group or yoga to get a notice. We go back 4 weeks. Anybody who's participated in the last 4 weeks get a notice. So, just so you all know, if we had somebody who's a snowbird, per se, and the last time they came was in December, and they want to come, this this Thursday, we won't be able to call them because we don't know that they were here. We just simply can't go back 52 weeks and pick everybody up that was in the program. And that's a really good thing for us to talk about, so I appreciate that. One last thing when we talk about that, we're in the throes of completing our operations manual. And that is no small feat. We're looking over everything we do and how we do it, how are purchases made, how are people paid, what is the process for doing timesheets and warrants and things like that, what are the systems we use, so that somebody coming into the administrative assistant role or the facilities role or the director's role know what the systems are and the expectations. They are not city specific, they are senior center specific. And in addition to those, we also have a procedures and guidelines manual that talk about specific programs. How do we set up the TOPS program? How do we do the bread raffle? Who's in charge of bingo and how is that set up? What does the infrastructure look like? What logistics look like? Who picks up the food, 3 days a week or 5 days a week, or how are items stored here, all of that. And then we have a policy manual, which is a very specific kind of rules and regulations of the senior center. Of the three, you know which one's the biggest? Not the policy manual. Thank God, that's a good thing. It's small, we don't have a lot of rules. Now that's really all I have, because he had to open the door to the cancellation.
So we're up to
Open
discussion. Something that just happened this past week, Mary and I and a couple of people from one of the groups that we're in, we're looking at what's been happening. Our senior center yoga class on Friday has really diminished from around 14 or so down to like 5 and 6 the last couple of weeks. And we were wondering about if we could switch the time of the walking group at the seniors at the City Hall. Is that a workable thing? It depends if the instructor can switch all across. So we were thinking if we did 10 o'clock. Because right now the lady that does it is here for our Planet Fitness group in the morning at 8:30. And that would be nice if she could go up here at 8:30 to 9:30, then went straight to City Hall.
Yeah, we can look at that. That probably isn't something that's going to be deliberated or decided here in this meeting, but Ron and I can talk offline to look at that. We'll talk to our instructor, Mary Lee, see what her. Just so you all understand, Mary Lee Harrington is the instructor for the walking group. She does fun and fitness Friday morning. So she does fun and fitness from 8:30 to 9:30, kind of cleans up, closes up 10 o'clock, and by 10:30 she's at City Hall. That's why that happened. That was also the decision we made when Amy was going to do that. By the way, I can't think about Amy and
No.
mention how much we send out love to her in a minute. So that was always the plan. But we can look at changing that. We also have to be mindful of what the availability at City Hall is in the auditorium. And it's not the actual footprint. It's about the staff that can open up and lock up and do those kinds of things to let us in. Yeah, we'll look at that. Nothing's off the table, but at least for now. Nancy?
I had something to say about that. As someone who goes to both of those things, like fun and fitness itself is an incredible workout. And I need a little time in between before the walking group. So personally, I would not want to go from fun and fitness over to the City Hall. The walking group is wonderful, but it's a workout too. So
It
that's
is.
my
Yeah.
opinion.
And we had a lot of interest, like a lot of people were poking us to do that. And I'm very appreciative of the folks at City Hall that make that possible for us. Again, it just shows and demonstrates that we're all working in the same direction, trying to accomplish the same goals. But let's talk about it. We might even be able to look at it on a different day or something, but we'll look at it.
We were just looking at the schedule ourselves, what was it, yesterday, Monday? And we were looking at the schedule just to find out if it was something that would not interfere with too many other people that would go to Planet Fitness. We would also like to go to the yoga class also, but it's just that, my God, our little yoga class went down quite a bit.
Last item I want to bring up, and I know we're a little bit past 3, is Amy. So for those of you who don't know, our fun and fitness instructor, literally the week after we announced her new program, suffered a pretty significant health condition. She's going to be out of commission for a little bit, for sure. maybe at the end of the day, she's gonna decide that she won't be able to come back, but we were able to pivot pretty quickly and get a temporary in, that's gonna turn into permanent, long-term, until we know what Amy's, decision is gonna be for Fridays, and are still working on our permanent temporary placement for Mondays. So it was kind of a big hit. Not only did she have a great presence here for her classes, she had a great presence here throughout the week. So we miss her terribly, and on behalf of our board, continue to wish her the very best and let her know that we miss her terribly. Can't wait to have her back in the center.
Okay, thank you, Michael. We really missed quite a few people that asked about it. Well, we heard Miller, so. I know Julie's missing her upstairs also, yeah. Okay, anything else for open discussion? Okay, Mary?
I had a question about the state ethics training and the summary of the conflict of interest law that we were taking online. Do you need these certificates turned in, and do you have any deadlines for those people that have not done it?
Yesterday. Yeah, so annually, on your anniversary date of the last completion, you need to do that. It is mandatory for all members of public boards or agencies to do the conflict of interest and ethics training. You are required to do it. That typically was on a 2-year cycle. This year, I understand that people got notices that might have done it last year, and when poking them and looking at it, it looks like it's more of a refresher than it was the full intense course, but it may not have been. It may have been single person, unique experience, but please, if you haven't done it, please do so. Now, let me also offer this. If you haven't done it because accessing it is tough, come here. We'll set you up on a computer, we'll put you in the middle of the office, and we will assist you in going through the training. That doesn't mean we're going to give you the answers, but we'll give you the help you need with technology and navigating it and getting it done in the most easy and non-invasive way possible. But it's not really tough, but it is a legal requirement we do it. Thank you, Mary, for bringing that up.
And I asked if you could put the time that you spent on those training activities, if you could put it in the computer in a certain place.
Yes.
Volunteer.
Yeah, so all of you should now have a volunteer sign-in. There were a few members of the board that got missed in the last update. So when you sign in for this meeting, you swipe in and then you hit, board meeting. That's okay. But in the upper left-hand corner, you're going to see your name and it says volunteer. If you press on that, you can just put in the number of hours that you're here today or the number of hours you work this week as a volunteer. That was part of the reason of that 10,000. There were a lot of people that we weren't capturing, so we kind of did an audit of it. I had Nancy sit with me and Karen, and we went through and we found there were a lot of volunteers that didn't have the volunteer icon because they weren't made active volunteers. They were listed as volunteers, but they weren't made active. The minute we make it active, you'll see that little tiny thing in the upper left-hand corner. If you didn't see that when you signed in today, or when you leave today, if you'd like to test it and see if it works, just swipe your card. If you don't have your card, you use your last name and phone number. First name and phone number is wicked easy. You don't need a card, and we can check and make sure you have it.
Yeah, because I forgot to do it this morning. I came in this morning, they did first group, second group, and up here, after I got home and having lunch, I forgot to volunteer, so I took care of it when I came in. It's very easy.
Yep, the other cool thing about it is if you forget your hours today and you sign in tomorrow, you can add your hours for today tomorrow. Like you don't miss, because you get to self-report how many hours you did. So if you did 2 today and 2 tomorrow, you can report 4 tomorrow.
So we can add in the time that you spend on the computer doing it?
Yep, absolutely. Any time you spend relative to your work as a member of the board. So, you figure you're here for an hour and a half for the meetings, but if then we have conversations, that total a half an hour, you can add that in. That's volunteer time. Yep, absolutely. All right.
Okay. Well, anything else? Go ahead, Paul.
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay. Okay, Paul made a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Next meeting is?
And our next meeting will be on March the 3rd, tentatively. And it's gonna be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. See you all then.